Justice means fighting for people whose voices are often overlooked: the poor, the less privileged, the youth, students, communities, and even children. Equity, justice, and leadership in my life begins with humility. As a young Black woman from Nigeria studying in Canada, I have learned that leadership starts long before the title. It starts in quiet moments, such as applying to something that you love and being rejected, being overlooked, believing in yourself, even when systems don't immediately reflect you. Justice is not just about laws, it is about access. Access to education, access to opportunities, access to platforms where young women can speak without shrinking. University is a junction, a place in life where young people choose their path. But too many students navigate it alone. If we want a just future, we must prepare women, we must prepare young people, not only academically, but emotionally, socially, and globally. Leadership is not dominance, it is responsibility. It is listening as much as you speak. It is humility. It is evolving systems so that they serve people, not silence people. She leads first within herself, and when she does, she makes the shift, not just for herself, but for others rising behind her. Thank you.
Gender equality. I think about fairness. Simple as that. I've sat in rooms where young people, especially young women, especially people that are young in the LGBTQ community, are invited to speak, but not truly heard. Where decisions are already made before consultation even starts. That doesn't sound like equality. It feels like checking a box in their system. To me, equality means being taken seriously. It means your ideas are not judged on who you are, but rather your substance and the thoughts behind it. It means leadership in spaces that aren't dominated by the same voices over and over again. And this isn't about pushing one group ahead of another. It's about something called balance. It's about making sure no one is locked out of opportunity because of assumptions or outdated structures that don't hold everyone equally. Young people are ready to lead now. We are informed, we are engaged. We understand the systems because we live it inside of them every single day. What needs to change is simple. Stop treating youth participation as some sort of symbolic gesture. Build systems that actually share power. Create space where contribution matters more than hierarchy. Gender equality on all sides strengthens everyone. It makes institutions smarter. It makes communities stronger. It makes decisions better. That's not some radical ideology. That's practical. It is time we treated it that way.
Justice and equity to me is about looking at who is left behind from the conversations and looking at how can we change the conditions so that they can participate fully and safely. Growing up in one of the most populated cities around the world in Egypt, I directly witnessed how inequities that can stem from political conflicts or climate change can affect very basic human rights, such as getting an education and stain childhood memories with fears about survival. And this specifically impacts those in the lowest socioeconomic status within a society. And those struggles fueled my work with marginalized youth. For me, leadership can look like working as a learning and behavior assistant for children with autism, where I get to work one-on-one to create an environment that is conducive to learning and development and engage them in different learning opportunities that break down some of the inequities they face in getting an education. In doing so, I do one-on-one mentorship and use creativity and thinking outside of the box to see what are some of the individualized needs that I can meet for the specific person. To me, this is leadership, nurturing others and starting small to build momentum. Beyond these one-on-one interactions, as a nursing student, I'm very passionate about the intersect between health and social context. In my research on reproductive and sexual health, I take a wider lens on leadership, thinking about how can we create evidence-based practice to foster a more accessible society for those who are marginalized, and sharing this research with hundreds of people, reflecting on the overlooked disparities that I've witnessed, especially within gender-based violence for immigrants and Indigenous women, encouraged me to work towards broader systematic change and make a difference for the patients that I work with.
Across sectors, industry, government, civil society, to expand the reach of human rights into technological and regulatory spaces. Even when I am not physically in the room where decisions are made, my research principles and collaborative structures continue to guide outcomes. Leadership is not about occupying the seat, it's about embedding values into systems. There is also a barrier navigated that many don't see. I am a survivor of gender-based violence, and Canada welcomed me as home, and I am so deeply grateful. But public policy must evolve, creating target opportunities for women survivors. It's not a preferential treatment, it's restorative balance. I want the decision makers to understand this. Justice cannot remain reactive. It must be designed into our system, into our standards, our labor markets, in our public policies. We are living longer, we are innovating faster, and it's time to ensure that dignity, economic participation, and safety evolving with equal regions. Justice must be structural, equity must be intentional, leadership must be ethical, and the time to act is now. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Hannah Grover, and if I were to talk about one issue here today, it would be the youth mental health crisis. As a youth myself, I started getting involved with healthcare organizations, speaking to prominent figures in the field, and working on projects that increased awareness about this issue. The more I learned, the more I realized this problem is not an individual one, it is in fact national. More than 75% of youth do not receive the type of specialized mental health care services they need here in Canada, and they're not involved in conversations regarding their own mental health and well-being, even though the choices made today will affect our lives in the future. There are many barriers to youth mental health services and access to care, including inaccessibility, lack of information, wait times, and high costs. Just this year, it was reported that Canada reached its lowest ever ranking since polling began in 2005 for the World Happiness Report, sitting at 18th place. Canada now also ranks 25th out of 41 wealthy nations on youth well-being in specific, making this an issue for voters and politicians to prioritize today, because we are the people of tomorrow.
Hi, my name is Hasina. I was born in Afghanistan, in a place where being a girl meant learning to shrink early. Not because we were weak, but because the systems around us were not built for our voices. In school, girls were brilliant, but often silent. Leadership had a gender, and it was not ours. When the political situation changed, I lost my home, I lost my country, but I did not lose my voice. My story does not begin in Canada. It begins on a rooftop in Kabul, with smoke rising from paintings I had created. Because man in power decided that art, especially when created by women, was dangerous. That was the moment I understood power is threatened by women who create, because creation is autonomy, and autonomy is rebellion. In different countries, in different systems, women are still asked to prove, to justify, to soften, to be grateful for spaces instead of owning it. Today, my work with Afghan girls is about restoring voices. It is about telling them you don't have to shrink to survive. Leadership to me is not domination, it is presence. It is taking space without apology. And justice means this: not being extraordinary to be heard, not being resilient just to deserve dignity, but simply existing and being recognized as fully human. Systems must change, not by asking women to adopt endlessly, but by rebuilding spaces where our voices are not the exception, but the norm.
Hello, my name is Mahsa Rajabi. I was a women and children's rights advocate in Afghanistan. I organized and support programs for women and children in Afghanistan. I helped them create safe space, learning activities, and supportive programs so that women and children could feel safe, protected, respected, and supported. In 2020, when schools were still open, I also ran small reading storybooks for children and youth. These activities were small, very simple, but they provide moments of safety, learning, and hope for children who had a very limited access to resource and support. Later, I moved to Canada. Even after coming here, I continued to think about the children and women in Afghanistan who were deprived of education, safety, and basic rights. This situation stayed with me and affected me deeply. Here in Canada, I work with newcomers and women in community programs. My experience in Afghanistan shaped who I was and strengthened my commitment to supporting vulnerable communities. I believe that supporting women and children was essential for building strong and healthy communities. These experiences continue to guide my values and the way I supported others. Thank you so much.
Hello, my name is Nicole Allison Dumais. I am from Gatineau, Quebec, Canada. Justice in my life looked like access. Access to information, access to opportunities, access to space where decisions are being shaped. As a young Black woman in Canada, I've learned that equity is not only about being invited into a room, it is about being fully recognized once you're there. One barrier I navigate that others may not immediately see is the quiet pressure to constantly validate my legitimacy. There is an invisible discipline in how you speak, how you present yourself, how you manage perception. Maîtriser 2 langues, 2 cultures, plusieurs codes sociaux, ce n'est pas seulement une richesse, c'est aussi une responsabilité constante. Leadership for me is not a title, it's steadiness. It is choosing not to minimize yourself, to make others comfortable. It is preparing deeply so that when your moment comes, your voice carries clarity. I lead when I create space where women can understand systems that were never explained to them. I lead when I engage in civic conversation and ask structural questions. I lead when I show other women that they do not need permission to think critically about the world around them. What needs to change is how lived experience is valued. Too often, it is collected as a narrative but not integrated as a strategy. Ce que je souhaite que le décideur comprenne, c'est que les jeunes femmes ne sont pas seulement l'avenir. Nous participons déjà au présent. If equity is truly the goal, then trust must accompany inclusion, and trust required shared authority. Merci beaucoup.
Access to basic menstrual products should never be a barrier to education, but for years, I watched students quietly miss class, leave school early, or sit in stress and anxiety because they didn't have access to something as basic as a pad or tampon. Hi, my name is Saj, and I'm a grade 12 student at Maples Collegiate in Winnipeg, Manitoba, and I'm the co-founder of Maple Student Advocacy. Past September, someone I knew was panicking in the bathroom after unexpectedly getting her period. She didn't have supplies, she had to call her family to bring products to school, and I remember thinking, why is this normal? That question led me to start Project Access at my school, focused on equitable menstrual product access. I started researching period poverty in Canada. And from there, we worked with students, teachers, and administration to build a practical system. Spot the sticker, grab what you need. This system consisted of an awareness campaign and a student survey with almost 600 responses identifying student concerns. This eventually led us to get a budget approved from school admins for access boxes, so students can simply grab what they need without embarrassment or barriers. One of the biggest challenges that I navigated throughout the course of the initiative was societal taboos. Speaking publicly about periods came with personal consequences at home, with my family due to cultural viewpoints, and I realized how much stigma still exists around periods. I also realized that leadership sometimes means having those difficult conversations before people are ready for them. I wasn't in decision-making rooms when this project started, but I wanted to make sure student voices were heard in those spaces anyway. And after a 5-month campaign, we got the opportunity to present the project in front of the divisional board superintendents and trustees. What I want decision makers to understand is that policies without real implementation continue to leave women and young girls unsupported. What needs to change now is our understanding about menstrual products and how they must be accessible to everyone at all times. Thank you so much for your time.
Woke up smiling, no big deal. Toes popping, this joy feels real. Oh, no jackpot, just my feet on the floor. Still I'm grinning like I want more. Sunlight through the kitchen blind.